Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It looks like Malik Scott will play an expanded role in Deontay Wilder's upcoming training camp for his fight with Tyson Fury, which will be the trilogy fight. As we know, Fury won the rematch, dominating Deontay Wilder, who didn't seem to have a game plan that could really do anything to Tyson Fury on the night, which was February the 22nd. And that fight, it ended with Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder's then assistant trainer, throwing in the towel. It's now been confirmed that Breland has parted ways with Wilder. We don't know all the ins and outs, just that they're not working together. And Deontay Wilder's co-manager Shelley Finkel has confirmed to ESPN that Malik Scott, a long-time friend of Deontay Wilder, as well as sparring partner, looks likely to have an expanded role in the camp. So I'll just get to his quotes and then on to a few thoughts, because there had been a number of suggestions in recent months about what Deontay Wilder should do and not do in terms of preparing for a third fight. There had been offers from the likes of Floyd Mayweather, also George Foreman and others to help Deontay Wilder prepare for Fury. Clearly, it looks like that's not really going to be taken up, and if it is, maybe it's more of a sort of token gesture sort of thing. But in terms of Shelley Finkel, so he has told ESPN, and see here on screen, these are the quotes: "There hasn't been wholesale changes, and without going into details, no one knows what goes on in our camp weekly and monthly and before the fight. And no one knows if this change came about from that one fight or if there were some other things and the culmination was the loss," referring to the split with Malik Breland. Then going on to say, "I think things will switch around with the team that is there, with Malik being in more of a role, and there's not much more to it." So that is Shelley Finkel talking to ESPN. So what to make of this? So at the time when Fury beat Deontay Wilder, after that fight, there was a lot of speculation what was going to happen, and especially with Malik Breland. And then Deontay Wilder ended up drawing a line under that situation, saying no, he would stay. But I think many of us sort of thought maybe that's not really going to be the case, and as it's transpired, well, they're no longer working together. But at the time, I did say in a video that I thought, well, if there was going to be a training change, that Malik Scott would logically, for me at least, likely fit a role there, because he was already part of the team. And as part of what Shelley Finkel was saying, he sort of alluded to not so much the Malik Scott thing, but just that, you know, the tight nature of the camp, that Deontay Wilder, you know, because he has worked with a lot of these guys for years and years and years. Remembering he hooked up with JD's, his head trainer, in what, the mid-2000s or whatever it was. Malik Breland came on board about 12 years ago. There's been a number of people who've been in the Wilder camp for some considerable time. Finkel has been with Wilder since day one as a professional. So Deontay Wilder does place a premium on guys that he knows and that are loyal to him, and clearly the whole Breland situation, he's just sort of ushered him out. Whatever's gone on there, we don't know all the ins and outs. It may have been Breland sort of saying, well, actually, after everything that's happened, I don't want to work with you anymore because you trashed me in public. We just don't know. But I did speculate at the time, when that was all bubbling away, the week after the fight in February, that it would make sense for Malik Scott to have a bigger role, and potentially he could be that new voice, or at least an expanded voice, and so it seems. And you can make a case either way with this, and we'll get to that, but Malik Scott is a very good technical boxer, and he works with a number of heavyweights around the world, not just Deontay Wilder. He's been, you know, far and wide in terms of helping boxers out. He helps them with their technique. He helps them with different things that he's able to pass on. Although he didn't necessarily have a career where he became a champion or anything, he fought at a relatively good level and was able to actually, you know, impart a lot of skills in the sort of camps where he has been brought in as a sparring partner. And we know for Deontay Wilder, Malik Scott has served as one of his primary sparring partners for quite a number of camps. So obviously there is some scope here for him to provide more boxing acumen and sort of what he's built up over the years. And he does train, fighters and do sessions, and obviously far and wide, he has become quite a, valuable and sought after sparring partner. So I think it makes sense that they were going to give Malik Scott a bigger role in Deontay Wilder's camp. And from what Shelley Finkel was saying, that is indeed what is going to happen. But I guess the argument against Malik Scott sort of, filling that Breland role is he has been there. He has been a voice in the camp. Clearly, over a number of years, he's been imparting advice at some level to Deontay Wilder. And you can ask, well, has he managed to actually help Wilder and, take him where he needs to go? Is this just going to be a case of it's going to be more of the same? That they've closed ranks. They might be giving Malik Scott a bit more of an expanded role, but that doesn't really change things because he was already an established voice in the camp, that he was already working with Wilder, giving him tips, tricks, all sorts of other things when they were sparring. So there is an argument to say that, but perhaps with the setup that they have with JD's, who sort of describes it as a football setup, D's sort of saying he's the head coach, essentially, and he has assistants, Mark Breland being one of them. And Malik Scott, well, maybe he had some sort of more minor role, but with a more major role in the camp, and perhaps some more sort of sway in terms of strategy and maybe doing certain things in the ring, maybe his voice will be able to, actually add something here that it hasn't before because he didn't have such a big place in the camp previously. And, you see what I mean, that maybe now he can sort of step into the light and offer something that will be taken in, some of the adjustments that need to happen. Because adjustments do need to happen. After that second fight, it was clear. Because heading into the rematch, JD sort of said the game plan was to do things better in the second fight. It was just basically following the first fight blueprint, but do it better. And that hasn't worked. And it really sort of went sort of pear-shaped in the rematch. So he has to actually come up with a better game plan. But who's going to come up with the game plan? Is it D's? Is it going to be Malik Scott or someone else? And I guess on the other side of the coin, there had been a lot of talk about bringing some guys in here, someone else, a new voice with some new ideas, some fresh thinking. And you could make a case either way. Bringing someone in, would there be disruption? Obviously Deontay Wilder is comfortable with who he has had around him. He's had an established camp that he's basically, taken through camp after camp after camp. So I guess there's pros and cons either way on that, because maybe some fresh thinking would have been good, maybe a fresh pair of eyes, see something new, different, maybe be able to make some small adjustments. Maybe there will be some of that. But I guess, from what they're basically signaling, Shelley Finkel, it's effectively going to be status quo, the same team, just sans Breland, and giving Malik Scott potentially a bigger role. And I know some people will maybe say, well, this is basically the same crew. If you basically do the same things with the same people, are you going to get the same results? And I think there is a case to be made for that. But also, if Malik Scott has an expanded role, a bigger voice, and if he's helping set the game plan, maybe he's going to have a bit more sway and things will be done a bit differently. And given what happened in the rematch with the result, I think you have to kind of go, well, we need to be doing some things differently. The game plan of just sort of trying to, as Dees was sort of urging Deontay Wilder in the fight to do, back him up and throw the right hand. If the right hand doesn't land and Tyson Fury is able to take that away, we've got to have something to fall back on. And Deontay Wilder looked a little bereft of ideas in the rematch. And he obviously has in other fights as well when he's sort of been under pressure, but ultimately he's been able to land the money punch. Didn't happen in that second fight. So, yeah, interesting news with Scott having an expanded role. And I guess we'll see, is this going to pay off? What they're going to do now, it's unclear because, as Shelley Finkel says, we don't know what goes on camp, weekly, monthly, and before the fight. A lot of it is just now speculation, but he has given us a good indication that Deontay Wilder is largely taking the same team and potentially the same ideas into that third fight. We'll have to see if they can come up with a different game plan, if he's able to, work on a few things and have a few new wrinkles for that third fight. It's going to be interesting. There's some interesting storylines here. The third fight, when it will be, unclear, because now they're saying it may not be on December the 19th. It could come earlier. Then again, it could be 2021. So a lot of things still up in the air with this fight. But apparently the training team is locked down. But I mean, who knows? Maybe there could be some people coming in for some short stints that we don't know about. Maybe we'll find out after the fact. Sometimes that does happen, especially with Deontay Wilder. He keeps things close to his chest. And obviously, people have been, on social media at least, speculating, why haven't we seen much of Deontay Wilder? To me, it makes sense that he's diligently going about preparations for a third fight, wanting to sort of keep under the radar and actually put in the work without some of the distractions of social media, which maybe you could argue did play a factor to some extent. Maybe he got sucked in a little bit for that second fight. But the thing is, that had been a major key to building his profile in the past year or two. But obviously now he's probably at the height of his popularity. He's probably never going to be more popular than he has been in the past year or two. So we can just focus on the task at hand. And coming off a loss, if he loses again, obviously it's a long way back, and some people will speculate what would happen next. But I'll leave it there. But what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.